Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Billyon Richardson with name 2103050001, and today I will show you guys of my presentation about intercultural communication. Without wasting the time, let me begin. The table of content. The topic that we will discuss is about barrier to intercultural communication, cultural learning, dealing with differences, and improving intercultural communication. Intercultural communication. Communication has always been an important need of all societies. Since the time of our cave dweller ancestor, people have been communicating in different ways. The common model for communication you can see at the photo in my presentation. The common model for communication is source, encoding, message, channel, noise, receiver. The coding, receiver response, feedback, and context. The common model for communication. Source. Source is the person with an idea he or she desired to communicate. Encoding. Encoding is the process of putting an idea into a symbol, the symbol into which you encode your thought vary. Message. The term message identifies the encode thought. Encoding is the process, the verb, the message is the result object. Channel. Channel. The term channel is used technically to refer to the means by which the encoded message is transmitted. Today, it's called media. Noise. The term noise technically refers to anything that distorts the message the source encodes. Receiver. The receiver is the person who attends to the message. Decoding. Decoding is the opposite process of encoding and just as much an active process. Receiver response is the reference to anything the receiver does after attended to an decoded to message. Feedback. It refers to that portion of the receiver response of which source has knowledge to and to which the source attends and assigns meaning. Context. The environment in which the communication takes place and which help define the communication. Intercultural communication sometimes used synonymally with cross-cultural communication. It is a form of communication that aims to share information across different cultures and social groups. It is used to describe the wide range of communication process and problems that naturally appears within an organization made up of individuals from different religious, social, ethnic, and educational background. First is barrier to intercultural communication. Barrier to intercultural communication have 6 things that we're going to discuss is attitude, perception, stereotype, interpretation, cultural shock, and nonverbal behavior. Attitude. A simple case. Intercultural training just confirms stereotype. If they want to do business with me, then they'll have to adapt to my culture. It is impossible to generalize culture. There are many differences. No comments. The good training will avoid stereotype and encourage people to change their view in the like of way they observe. It is an anthropocentric approach and is unlikely to success in business or other relationship. Care should be taken with generalization, but at times they are necessary and they can be useful for as long as allowance is made for individuals' difference. Perception. The fact that people perceive the same thing in different way is particularly important in intercultural communication. The way we perceive and culturally determine and the general lack of awareness of this is another barrier to intercultural communication. Stereotype. A stereotype is a fixed idea or image that many people have a particular type of person, think, or event, but sometimes it is not true in reality. In intercultural communication, It is vital to distinguish between what is part of a personal cultural background and what is part of their personality. Interpretation. Goodkuns in Gibson 2000 suggests three ways of checking or interpretation of other people's behavior. The one is perception checking, listening efficiently, and giving feedback. Culture shock. Culture shock is precipitated by the anxiety that result for losing all our familiar sign and symbol of social intercourse. These signs or cues include the 1001 way in which we orient ourselves to situation to daily life. Nonverbal communication. While language is the primary means of communication, nonverbal behavior also communicates. Nonverbal pattern includes gesture, facial expression, eye contact, body movement, touching, and the use of space and time. The second is cultural learning. As you can see at the picture, show the different pace of cultural learning. The process of cultural learning can be helped along by experience, reflection, and training. Intercultural training not only provides information but also development skill and encourage attitude to enable people to progress along the cultural learning curve. The third is dealing with differences. With differences. Use the following statement that reflect on how well suited you are to be an international student or employee. How many are to you? First, I am a social person and have a lot of friends. 2. I enjoy travel and learning about new culture. 3. I have always been good at learning language. Based on research marked in Gibson 2000, and list in order of priority what personal manager is. German companies look for in international manager: social competence, openness to other way of thinking, cultural adaptation. Note that on the list, professional excellence doesn't come at the top of the list. If technically skill is the only criterion for working aboard, the result will be rarely successful. While aggression, speed, and competitiveness may be important in monocultural environment, they could be dangerous in intercultural one, where qualities such as adaptability and high tolerance for ambiguity and more important. The fourth topic is improving cultural communication. As you know, intercultural communication is the communication between people with several cultural contexts. Because we all different, it is important to recognize each other's communication manner and then learn to handle. In interaction with people from foreign cultures, a person who is intercultural competent understands the culture-specific concept of perception, thinking, feeling, and acting. The basic requirements for intercultural competence are: break the assumption, empathize, involve, discourage hurt mentally, and avoid insensitive behavior. The basic requirement for intercultural competences are: break the assumption. For intercultural communication to truly work, people need to assess their assumption and ask themselves why they hold those ideas or beliefs. By doing so and even openly examining them with others, the initial barrier of intercultural communication is overcome. Empathize. In order to come to appreciate and understand people from different cultures, empathy is vital. Through putting yourself in someone else shows you come to see or appreciate their point of view. Involve. Involving others in tasks or decision making empower and build strong relationships using intercultural diversity is in essence a more creative approach to problem solving as it incorporates different point of view. Discourage hurt mentally. Hurt mentally refers to a close and one-dimensional approach, such as way of thinking, creativity, innovation, and advancement, as people are restricted in how to think, approach, and engage with people or challenge. Intercultural communication can only flourish and therefore contribute if people bring their cultural influence to the table and share ideas that may be outside of the box. Stereotype. People can and do behave in cultural insensitive way by attacking their culture and therefore their dignity. This can only be deceived. Effective communication depends on the informal understanding among the parties involved that are based on trust development between them. When trust exists, there is implied understanding within communication cultural differences way by overlook and problem can be dealt with more easily. Okay, I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for seeing and listen to my presentation. I'm very sorry if the way I'm bring my presentation and the way I say a word wrong. I'm very sorry. Well, thank you very much for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.